Canada's Privacy Commissioner is blasting Facebook in a new report. He says the social media giant broke this country's privacy laws. And when he told Facebook to clean up its act, it said no. The commissioner says that's unacceptable.
They disagree with our legal conclusions. I don't think it should be on in 2019 in terms of privacy legislation that a company, a private company with its interests, can say to a regulator, thank you very much for your conclusions on matters of law, but we actually disagree and we will actually continue as we were. It is completely unacceptable.
CBC's Janice McGregor is on the story. She joins me live from our nation's capital. And just last hour, we heard from the Privacy Commissioner. We carried that for our viewers live right here on CBC News Network. You've gone through this report, took a year to prepare, but what stands out for you?
Well, it's pretty damning, Suhanna, first of all. And let's remember what's at stake here, right? Everybody sort of, when they sign on to Facebook, they have the option to give over a whole lot of their life, their photos, where they went to school, all sorts of personal information that ultimately is very valuable to private sector marketers and to people during election campaigns. And of course, it was because of a couple of very high-profile political campaigns that this whole affair came to light. The way information people handed over to Facebook ended up being used in the United Kingdom's Brexit referendum and, of course, famously in the 2016 presidential election in the US. The issue at the heart of this investigation was what happened as a result of a quiz that was actually developed in Britain. It was called This Is Your Digital Life. And only a few people actually did that quiz for money. But it's interesting, there's a chart in this report from the Privacy Commissioner today that talks about how this quiz impacted on privacy breaches for over 600,000 Canadians. I think we've got a bit of a graphic here. It breaks out province by province, exactly how many people filled in this quiz for a few specific provinces. And I'll pick them, just randomly. It talks about, in Ontario, there were 142 people who took the quiz. In Saskatchewan, I think only 4. In British Columbia, 33 people took the quiz. But as a result of just small numbers like that, downloading the app, huge numbers of people, in fact, saw their information being shared. Like you look at those 33 people who downloaded the app in British Columbia, over 92,000 users as a result. It resulted in having their personal information accessible to these people who wanted it. And of course, Facebook sells this information for money. And the argument here is they have a responsibility to obtain consent for that data and to safeguard it if consent isn't meaningfully given. And that's what's at the heart of this. But you heard Danielle Therrien there saying that Facebook has rejected his findings, rejected the things that he asked to be fixed, saying it's just your opinion. And as a result, he's going to federal court because he says a social media company like this should not get to decide what Canada's privacy laws do and do not require.
So what does the Privacy Commissioner want the federal government to do?
Well, a number of things. Other jurisdictions have the ability to impose fines as a result of a violation like this. Therrien cannot, so he's asking for that. In Europe, for example, you can have a fine as high as 50 million euros. That is the kind of fine that might deter bad behavior, make these companies sit up and listen. Also wants more powers to investigate so he can better enforce these kinds of privacy breach allegations and compel better behavior. But it was interesting, he was joined at this news conference by BC's Information and Privacy Commissioner, Michael McAvoy, and he was asked, should we just get off Facebook? What should we do? Take a listen to what he said.
We are social beings, and when it comes to connecting with all of your friends and thinking about that, Facebook is a virtual monopoly in that world. So if you want to connect, that's pretty much your only option. So all of which is to say, we ought not to be critical of individuals who go on the system and try to do their best to protect and share with whom they only want to share. The focus should be on the companies like Facebook to ensure that they're acting responsibly.
And the Privacy Commissioner also wants the federal government, to really take a good look at its privacy law. It says Canada has fallen behind other jurisdictions in terms of what it requires these companies to do. And at the moment, the federal government has just been consulting. It hasn't actually changed any laws. And of course, we do have a federal election coming up this fall, Suhana. So no changes, meaningful changes, I think, are possible in law between now and then. But hopefully by going to court, Daniel Therrien hopes he's sending a message to others who might be thinking about privacy breaches like this, encouraging them to think twice. And worth noting that Canada's political parties, federal political parties, are not subject to Canadian privacy laws at this time. Something to keep in mind as all of these parties gather all your data and use it to reach out to you this fall.